everyone, and welcome to Feed and Grain Chat. I'm your host, Elise Schaefer, editor of Feed and Grain. This edition of Feed and Grain Chat is brought to you by Watt Global Media and feedandgrain.com. Feedandgrain.com is your source for the latest news, product, and equipment information for the grain handling and feed manufacturing industries. Today, I'm joined on Zoom by Vince Peterson, President and CEO of U.S. Wheat Associates, the export market development organization for the U.S. wheat industry. He's here today to discuss the impact on wheat exports of the newly formed Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad. Hi, Vince. How are you?
I'm great, Elise. So nice to be on with you this morning. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Now, let's get right into it. Vince, tell us about the members that make up the U.S. Wheat Associates and how critical is U.S. transportation to your members?
All right. Our membership starts at the grower level, wheat producers who are organized through 18 wheat commissions, state organized wheat commissions, such as the Kansas Wheat Commission, North Dakota Wheat Commission, and 16 others. So our members are these wheat commissions. Our board of directors are wheat producers that are put on our board by these commissions. In the end, the purpose of the organization is to promote exports of U.S. wheat. So transportation, of course, is a vitally important link from the farm to the export customer. So it's a critical issue for us, whether that's truck, rail, barge, waterborne, ocean shipping. All of those things play in a very big role for us.
So what was your feedback to the Surface Transportation Board about the CPKS merger when it was being reviewed?
Yeah, when we looked at this to begin with, and it maybe it's a slight context, don't try to go too far back with it, but you think back, this was done when also not only the CP, but the CN, the Canadian National Railroad, was interested in a merger. So both Canadian railroads were initially interested. This also came all at a time when we had COVID as a background, we had the pandemic going on, supply chain disruptions, all of those things were sort of the background for all of this was going on. So there are a few concerns that we had through that. One is that we had already seen up to about 2000 a decrease in competition from Class 1 railroads. I think we were down to 7 railroads at the time, and this will reduce that further to 6. And we had witnessed some, let's say, lack of competitive issues in the railroad business over that period of time. Even the National Grain and Feed Association this last year put together public comments sort of criticizing the railroads for lack of servicing. So I think we're in somewhat company with the grain shippers on those sort of things. But one of the things that we had seen over the course of time was very specific to wheat. And that was the cost of moving wheat out of the Midwest to the Gulf to Mexico was being disadvantaged to other commodities, corn and soybeans in particular. In other words, wheat rates for the same cars, same power, same origin, same destination was being charged about 30 cents a bushel more than corn and soybeans for those same routes. So enter the discussion with the Canadian railroads. And now we're in the place where we are probably going to put more Canadian wheat into the system because these railroads are big originators in Canada, and the systems are so different in Canada versus the United States in terms of regulatory issues, rail rate caps, and those kind of things that we're somewhat concerned that that's going to put some of our shippers in greater competition in the U.S. domestic market and the Mexican market. So now not only to compete with corn and soybeans for rates domestically, we also may see more Canadian wheat into the mix. So there were several things that were kind of on our radar screen of concerns through this time.
Now, how does the U.S. Wheat Associates feel about the 7-year oversight that the STB included in this merger approval?
I think that's good. I think the fact that they do have ongoing review of the process for that to go on. We had hoped that they were going to consider a few more things even beyond just a review process. Among those were the ability for railroads, and these are things that are under the authority of the STB to address, things like through rate regulation, terminal trackage rights, reciprocal switching, some of those things that we had hoped that they might address in this merger to allow us or assure us that there's going to be more possibilities for growers that may be a little bit displaced by this to be able to assure they had access to all of these kind of markets. And then the other thing we had asked for, and we'd appreciate it if they did in the review process, was to get access to waybill data on wheat coming in out of Canada. In other words, that's something that shows you precisely what is being paid for rates from those areas versus, let's say, comparable areas out of North Dakota, Minnesota, to various countries. We want to be sure that we're not being disadvantaged from one origin to another in terms of wheat rates. So the review period is great. I think we're glad they're going to do that, but we're going to continue to push them for some specifics in that.
Now, what about some victories? How will the new rules under the final offer rate review help U.S. ag shippers?
Hopefully that's going to simplify rate arguments somewhat. It's a process that's been worked on for some period of time. And this in particular is an issue that we've had some concerns about over the wheat rates and the differentials to the other commodities. We're hoping that streamlines things, it puts them more in an arbitration sort of a situation rather than just sort of a railroads would object to this, a monopolistic pricing model. And so we're hoping that's going to help us a little bit on the competitive side of those.
Vince, thank you so much for your insights today.
Elise, I'm very glad to do it. Big subjects, probably going to spend a lot of time talking about this. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, you're so welcome. That's all for today's Feed and Grain Chat. If you'd like to see more videos like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for the Industry Watch daily e-newsletter, or go to feedandgrain.com and search for videos. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.